Hi, my name is Pankti Parikh, and today I want to talk to you about how a simple organic chemistry principle was instrumental in changing the outcome of a once deadly disease in newborns. What I want to talk about is neonatal jaundice, and here you can see is a picture of what a child with neonatal jaundice looks like. So what is neonatal jaundice? Neonatal jaundice occurs in 60% of all infants and 80% of preterm infants. Babies are born with a large amount of hemoglobin, and this quickly metabolizes to form a compound known as bilirubin. Now, normally, because bilirubin is not water soluble, it quickly becomes converted into a compound that can be easily dissolved in water and can be therefore excreted in stool or urine. But due to the immaturity of liver function in newborn infants, this doesn't happen, and that causes an accumulation of bilirubin. This can be very dangerous because when bilirubin reaches a certain point, it crosses the barrier between the blood and the brain and can seriously damage long-term mental growth, and it can cause permanent mental disability. So it's a very serious condition. So let's talk a little bit more about this compound bilirubin. Here you can see the structure of bilirubin. This is what the compound looks like. And so to go a little bit more into how bilirubin itself is created, essentially what happens is red blood cells reach the completion of their lifetime. And when that happens, they are sent to the spleen where they are destroyed and release a red colored compound known as hemoglobin. The heme part of hemoglobin is metabolized into bilirubin, which is a yellow-orange compound, which is why when a person has an accumulation of bilirubin, which results in jaundice, their skin starts to take on a yellow color, as you could see in that earlier photo. So I said earlier that bilirubin has to be converted into a compound that can be dissolved in water. But looking at its structure right here, all of these functional groups are what is called polar. That means that it should be very easy for bilirubin to dissolve in water. So why doesn't it? Well, what happens is bilirubin more or less forms a cocoon. All of the polar functional groups, which should be interacting with water, are actually only interacting within the compound. You can see these hydrogen bonds that are forming between these compounds, and they're not interacting with the water, they're only interacting with themselves. So there's a cocoon that's kind of created. And so the outside becomes unreactive and it becomes unable to react with water. So how does the body get around this? The bilirubin that is accumulated in fatty areas like the skin, tissues, or the brain is converted into a water-soluble compound with the help of a liver enzyme. The final compound is known as conjugated bilirubin, which is a much more water-soluble compound. This allows the bilirubin to be excreted through the urine or the feces. Here you can see the natural process that occurs in the body that allows bilirubin, shown right here, to be converted into a more water-soluble compound, conjugated bilirubin. It's with the help of glucuronic acid, and you can see how there are more groups exposed to the water, or polar groups exposed to the water that allows the water to dissolve the compound. Unfortunately, the process that normally occurs in the body does not occur as efficiently in newborns because their liver function is actually much more immature. This is why term and preterm babies are pretty vulnerable to jaundice, which basically causes a yellowing of the skin and can actually result in irritability and even seizures. So if so many babies suffer from jaundice, how is it treated? Well, in the past, doctors had to treat patients by removing the bilirubin from the blood and transfusing new blood in exchange. It was time-consuming, expensive, and complicated. The discovery that natural sunlight can decrease jaundice spurred an interest in how the process occurs. Further studies revealed that exposure to blue light actually increases the excretion of bilirubin through the urine. Ultimately, this resulted in finding out that blue light increases excretion of bilirubin, and phototherapy was developed. So phototherapy is where organic chemistry comes in a big way. There is a process known as photoisomerization, where light energy changes the configuration of a compound in a key way. Using blue light, bilirubin can be converted into a different photoisomer, which is water-soluble and can be excreted in urine. Let me just demonstrate this for you on this next slide. Here is bilirubin, and you can see that the compound has one particular double bond that is actually in a configuration that in organic chemistry is known as a Z configuration. But when it is exposed to blue light, you can see how it completely changes to an E configuration. You can see how when the bilirubin has that particular double bond in a Z configuration, it retains a cocoon-like status where the outside is completely unable to react with water. You can see how when it achieves an E configuration, more groups are exposed to the water, which allows it to react and become water soluble essentially. So simply putting a baby under a blue light bulb for 24 hours resolved a major medical issue. And this small principle from organic chemistry has decreased neonatal jaundice and saved many children from permanent mental impairment.